You called it historical figure.
Yeah, historical figure. But that historical figure, thanks, Charlie, that we pretty much had some kind of, I guess, feeling about, there's a word I'm looking for, but I can't come up with it right now, but maybe later on. But we appreciated and honored who they were. And so we did some research on our person that we came up with, and we were told to come up with two. I did eventually come up with the second person as well, but I did do the research, and we were all supposed to research our person. And then
different way. Has anyone gotten any responses like that?
I have. I had two people that went and looked for, some of the characters up. Well, and then asked more questions.
Really?
So they were looking, yeah. That people they had never heard of, Queen and Zinga. Your character, Jane, came up. So a lot of people there, they learned a lot. So I know I had two people that came and had researched some of the people that were presented or represented.
So what did they want? What was the questions that they asked about people?
They just wanted to know more about the characters. Some people they had never heard of before. I know my sister was excited about Queen and Zinga. When they went to the museum in DC, they had seen information on her.
Oh, really?
So they were looking forward. Yeah. So they were looking forward to seeing the character acted out, which they loved. And then, I can say names. Leslie. She went, as soon as she saw it, she went back and looked some of the characters up. So, and then my friend Nora, who some of us know is a theater person, and she looked people up as well. So,
well, I was just an audience member, and I know I looked up Moms Mabley. I mean, I knew of her. I didn't know a lot of the details about her because she was earlier than my time, but I knew of her. So I did look her up, and Queen and Zinga. I did have a question about the Rosa Parks presentation. And my only question for that was, the story the character told was, about being tired and not giving up her seat because she was tired. And we've subsequently learned that, Rosa Parks actually it was planned. She had planned. And so I was wondering why, was that an artistic choice, or was that, why that story was chosen? And I wasn't sure why that was the way it was. But that would be sort of the only critique, if that's really a critique, that I had, was not knowing why the choice to say that was made. Even though I know for a long time that had sort of been the myth in the ethos, was that she was just tired, and rather than she was an active participant in the NAACP, and there'd been a previous idea about a bus strike, and she was actually selected. So it wasn't sort of just a random day of being tired.
So it has been said in the research that she was tired. Did she say she was tired, or people put that on her that she was tired? Do you know?
You mean in the actors' research? I mean, I'm not sure.
No, in the general, you said it's been.
Yeah, I mean, it was a myth for a long time that it wasn't a planned political move. It was just that day, at that moment, she just was, tired, like the actress said, tired in her soul, and that has been said for many, many years, and subsequently it's been learned that they actually planned the boycott. They actually selected Rosa Parks for many reasons, and she knew of somebody like a 15-year-old who had previously tried to boycott the buses because of sitting in a seat. She personally knew her, and that's where they got the idea from. So it wasn't, I mean, I understand why, like, it's a much more palatable thing to swallow in the larger majority of, oh, she was just tired and you know, she just finally reached her limit. And maybe at the time it was happening, it's less threatening to go, oh, they knew what they were doing. They picked, she knew what she was getting into, and that was planned. And it was planned literally from the day of Emmett Till's funeral, which was that same. So I grew up, I went to a primarily African-American grade school. We were taught the same thing. She was tired. We had Black History Month every day of the year. So, but later on, as I've looked more into and read more, it's like, no, she had more agency than it was just a matter of fatigue, you know.
Very interesting. Anybody else have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at something now, and it was a Claudette Coley. She was a teenager,
Yeah.
And she, from what I hear too, that she wasn't the chosen one because of her situation.
She was a teen mother, so
right,
and they
so
could
she didn't.
So they
selected
Rosa Parks.
Yeah, yeah. That's I've seen that twice. So, just recently too, that she was chosen.
I think one of the things, if we have to consider as artists, as people of color, as people who are trying to open up history to people, is the layers of history. There's the mythology, you know, and we all know that every human being has a familial mythology. Your uncle so-and-so had more money than anybody. Well, why ain't we rich? Well, he lost it all. That sort of thing. That's family mythology. You know, we part Indian. We could sit on our hair. And then there's the mythology that society builds, and it's a hard thing to get past that. So we have to ask ourselves, when we do something like this, what is it we want to pass on? What is it we want to open people up to? Sometimes the mythology may be the most effective way. Sometimes the truth may be the most effective way. I think truth is always more interesting than myth, but truth is a difficult thing to do in a limited amount of time. Because you're trying to keep people's attention. You only have so much time. I feel that way about my character, Jane Johnson. I cut it down to 2 minutes, but the most interesting, effective parts are not there. The fact that the Fugitive Slave Act made this vigilante committee. The vigilante committee was made up of white and black abolitionists who were literally freeing slaves and holding up people. The fact that on the boat, when she gets to get off the boat, her master grabs her and 2 colored stevedores hold him back, and they went to jail for that. And the guy that said, "You want to be," went to jail for that. There are so many layers, and the only way she got in that courtroom was a phoenix of white women surrounded her and went into that courtroom with her in the center, then opened up for her to testify, then closed up again when she testified, and got her out the courtroom while she was chased by all those people. Do you see what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a story. Where was that located, Paulette?
That was in New York when she went, when she goes to trial. So if we're going to do this at some stage, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to layer our truths so that they come out. That's what I feel. I really feel truth is the best tale. It may not be most comfortable,
Yeah,
but it's the best
Go
one.
back to what I said earlier. I wasn't critiquing the actress. I mean, her performance was great. I was just wondering if it was a choice, like if she was making that choice, or if it was, something else. Because, like Paulette just said, for a long time that was the truth we were told. So you can't fault people for still thinking that that's still what is, because what the truth is isn't it's publicized as much. I don't know if that's the comfort for other people to think we weren't as cunning as we could be, or if it's just been like, oh, we know what she did, we don't need to know the details of it, kind of thing.
So it seemed like in her piece that the way it was portrayed as though this was just a spur of the moment sort of thing, and she was just tired, and she just,
I mean, it's not so much spur of the moment, because I don't get that from her, but it was I think she said, that day I was just tired, and then I think she followed that up by saying tired down to my soul. And I'm sure Rosa Parks was that day tired down to her soul. I have no doubt. But I think if she, it leaves off the other part, so it just sounds like it just happened in that sort of day, like that day, whatever had happened earlier in the day, and she, and she said, I'm tired most days, but this day I was tired to my soul. So I was just like, okay, it doesn't seem like it was planned, and that's why I got thrown off. I was like, so are they not just going to put that? Are they leaving that part out on purpose, or I didn't know, for time's sake, or what it was. So,
well, I know that the actress, all of us were told to research it in depth and to really choose what we wanted to say about them. But then we had to break it down to 2 minutes.
Right, exactly. That's what I thought. Maybe it's time, and she felt like the piece she said really encompassed, what she was trying to get across, and the feeling of, being disenfranchised, denigrated all these years. And it's like at that, she was just tired. And as I said, I don't doubt that happened. So it's not like what she was saying was untrue.
But that's a good point, though. That's a good point. That's why I wanted to talk about history and what is history, and the myths that, the things that, people. I'm sure, Phyllis, you're a teacher, right? You have a lot of information about history and what it is. And
it depends on how you.
So I looked it up, and there's so many different definitions.
Yeah. And there's so many ways to approach it.
There's so many.
That's what I was like, maybe she wanted to approach it in a different way. Maybe she was trying to generate a different feeling, or she felt like it would get too complicated going into all that based on time. That's why I was like, was it a choice? I was just curious as to whether.
Yeah, I think it was a choice. Well, many choices because of the constraints she had and what she wanted to convey to the audience.
Right.
But also, these pieces, in the end, these pieces are going to be like little one woman plays, like 5 minutes to 7 minutes. So in the end, it's going to encompass a lot. But for this introduction to them, they only had to do 2 minutes, and then
right. You just want to give them a taste.
But I'm interested in the history thing. What exactly do we feel history is?
Well, what I first come up with the past, but then I looked it up, and there's a whole lot of other stuff connected to it also. About, do we really believe in history? Can we rely on history? Is it reliable? that's one of the main questions I got from looking it up. What is history? Because
And
people
there's,
can make stuff up, of
and
course.
there's, yeah, and
Right.
there's other histories that are, there's people think that you just open that history book and and that stuff what's in there is valid.
Right.
And I've had many arguments with people, and like I have an argument with a cousin of mine who is pissed off about the history books right now, and I was like, well, have you looked at a modern history book? I mean, like there's there, and it's always told from a particular point of view,
Yeah, exactly.
A person's history, and then there's, of course, there's the history that's oral history, which is just as valid, and the history of the storytelling that people like for instance, in the history books that they're using right now in the high school that I used to teach in, one of the beauties of it was that they'd have the history, the stuff that we've been told millions and millions of times, and then they started injecting things like the oral history of people who were actually there, the interviews from people who were or the stories of people who were, like, for instance, a letter from a soldier from the Civil War, and what he, what that young man was feeling, what was doing. And then there's, of course, the story told from the point of view of literature as well, because literature tells a story. Literature is story, and you get a story, like any story. You get any story at all that you're reading, and what's the context? Because context is extremely important. And the other thing I think of history is who is telling it. Who is writing this book that you're reading. And most of the history books that we have come from the white guy who's putting it all together and telling it from his story. I mean, like if you were to talk to a Native American, I think their story of what happened to them is going to be a lot different than John Wayne's story of cowboys and Indians, and then of course there's the mythos that were given by Hollywood. There's that whole when you make a story that this is based on truth and you tell that kind of story, is like, well, they want to skew it, they want to make it so it's going to draw an audience in. So that's when you have to go and look for yourself, and that which is kind of background to what you guys were talking about earlier. And sometimes history is skewed by the person telling it. They have their sense of justification for what they do, justification for how it went for them, justification for, like, for instance, I was reading, for instance, the Pilgrims, those people who came from England, they honestly believed that they were coming, that this was Canaan, and they had to clear it all out, and that, the Native Americans were the bad people, and they had to clear it out because they were brought here by God, and they were the new people, and that they were brought here by God, and that this was new, this was the new land, and they were going to be the new world and the new people, and that God brought them there, so they had to clear out the evil, wicked, bad people who occupied the land, and that's what they thought. That's what they believed. Yeah, manifest destiny. Destiny, yeah. And it's a crock. I mean,
and imperialism.
Wait, what? Manifest what?
Manifest destiny.
Manifest destiny. And imperialism.
Oh.
Yeah, manifest destiny is this idea that we are destined to be here. We are supposed to be here, and it's our destiny to do this. It's it's our.
It's a kind of a false Christian belief that it was injected, using religion to try to inspire that.
And
turn it into genocide.
And these guys were, genocide happened. Yeah, and these guys felt that, that they were heathens, and that they were, all kinds of stuff that they didn't have. This whole idea that there was no civilization, that they were not civilized people, and blah blah blah, and so all that, that's one story, and
that reminds me of my character I played, Queen Pazinga. She her whole story is like Shakespearean. It's so much that's going on, but most of the things that I researched about her was from other people talking about her. And then as I kept digging, I was wondering, is this really true that they, where did this come from? What is going on? And then also it took me to archives that you had to pay to go and look and read and find out more about her. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, and books and she's back in the 1600s. So I was like, wow.
Ooh.
But she, like you said, about they wanted her to become a Christian. And I thought that was so interesting, the Portuguese. And she did, but then they said in the research that she did it because she wanted to know who they were. And I thought that was so interesting. And then her allies were the Dutch. And then it said she killed her brother, but then it said he committed suicide. But then it said that her brother sterilized her so she would not be in line to become the queen, but eventually through some stuff she did, a lot of other stuff, she did become queen. So I was like, this lady is something else. It was really, really, wow. But she lived a long time too. So I thought she was so interesting. But all the different things that people are saying about her and different contradictions. And so it was just very interesting with the history.
That's those layers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd really like to see more of Moms Mabley. I mean, I get the feeling that, she was this comedian and she was a woman comedian, and those are rare birds, like now there are a lot more comedians, but when she was coming up, when she was out there were just a handful of those women. And, I can't imagine the fight that they would have had, trying to get gigs and, and how were they treated and I just can't, I would love to hear more of her story of, she was a performer. She went around the United States. She became a famous person. She wasn't just, she became a famous comedian and a famous woman for her craft, for her art. And I'd be so interested to know how things were for her. I'd be so interested to know, like, did she have a family? Did she, where is she from? A little more of that. I'd like to know more of, and understand the time. And I was just intrigued. I mean, I knew of her, and I even saw some of her work as a kid, but and probably films and stuff. But I was intrigued by that character. I was really intrigued by that woman.
Yeah, I was too. I didn't know anything. I didn't know about her past at all.
Stepping out. I mean, she just stepped out.
I ended up, similar to you, Phyllis, I knew of her as a kid. Like I had seen clips of her like on the Ed Sullivan or something like that. And even then, because I was a kid, I was like, I don't think she's funny. Like, you know what I mean? But as you grow older, you're like, oh, now I know what she's saying, and it's funny.
Right, she's doing, yeah, right, yeah.
I ended up looking her up afterwards, and like I didn't realize like how hard her life had been. The fact that you mentioned it, Cindy, that she'd been assaulted and stuff. But I didn't realize that she'd also, for a time, and I don't know if she did this at the end of her life, was, straddling. Like being queer, like she was dressing as a man for a while. And, she had.
Toward the end, it appeared that she dressed after her show. She was always on stage in a dress. But afterwards, she started dressing as a man. So, and they interviewed someone that shared the dressing room with her. And it did seem that she lived started a bisexual life. So, but she did change.
I know just as a black woman with 4 children that I'm not sure if she was married. I know she had 2 children that she gave up for adoption because it was from assault. But, then to also have that additional layer, it had to be extremely hard to do whatever she was doing and become as famous as she became.
Mhm.
So the more I was like reading on her based on just watching you, I was like, wow, you know, amazed at how far she went based on what she had to overcome, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of, Paula was talking about this earlier, there's a lot of conflicting information out about her too. So you have to really search through, because some things really don't match up.
Mhm.
But,
Mhm.
you know, Whoopi Goldberg did a really great study on her. And so that clarified a lot of things. And then there are rumors. I grew up thinking, oh, you can't listen to her. I thought she cursed a lot. She did not. Now, some of her topics were a little rough, but she didn't curse.
Right.
Like a lot of the comedians do today. So, and those things that I used were hers. You know, they were her pieces. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I was inspired by many of your, I mean, yours and the group's performances, just to look up a lot of people. Some I knew, but some I didn't know as well as I thought I did. And just listening to you guys made me do a lot of looking up. So.
So any other characters you guys want to talk about or mention? There was Shay, there was Jane Johnson, Phyllis Wheatley, and Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters.
Yeah, we both said
That
Wow.
was a really good performance,
Yeah.
because I've met her, and it was
You
really,
met her? Oh.
yeah. I used to work on the Minority HIV Congressional Black Caucuses outreach.
Wow.
And she was one of the proponents to get funding for that. So I thought the actress that did her captured her perfectly.
Yes.
Really?
Actually, and I
Right
have
here.
yeah, that's Sheena. I have to give you a compliment from someone, Sheena. They said they didn't realize it was you.
Oh,
Till
really?
they got into the piece, yes.
What?
And they were like, oh, that's Sheena.
Yeah,
That
I'm
is
sorry
a
I didn't recognize you,
compliment.
because I'm like, she was good. She was good. So for a minute I was like, well, when they, even before they said who it was, I was like, well, is she doing like an intro piece? Is Maxine Waters doing an intro piece for somebody? And then I, you know.
that's nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Abigail. I'm going to take
Welcome.
that and I'm going to run with it. And Cindy too.
That's going to be on your resume.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought Phyllis Wheatley was so powerful. The whole writing, so good. I just
Named after
mesmerized by it. I don't know too
Yes.
much about her either. And then the poem at the end was really good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed Black Panther.
Huey.
Huey.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
Huey.
Did you all listen at the very beginning? You read the piece about the jail. Did you hear the whole the music that was playing behind it, and then the bars and chains? Did you hear all that?
No,
Hear that?
no. Maybe I stepped away for a minute. I don't.
Yeah. And then when he came on, it was just awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really liked the work that led up to Che Guevara, his piece, where it looked like they had also had like maybe clips from Cuba or something, like the side of a building with his portrait on it. That was good.
Oh, yes. Those pictures, those were really good. Especially they had a picture of Martin Luther King in Cuba.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like,
Okay.
oh.
Yeah, in Cuba, they have buildings with Shay's picture painted on it,
Right.
you know?
Hmm.
Yep.
Those
Mhm.
were Sheena's personal pictures. That's-
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You're a traveler, Tina. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've been there many times, right?
Yeah, a couple of times and trying to still go back. It's a beautiful
Yeah, me
place.
too. I want to go back. Yeah.
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 And I wanted to put up their they call it their longest couch in the world. You know, where everybody sits on that um what is it made out of? Concrete. Every time you see Cuba, you see people
Macon,
standing and
right on the sea.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hear it got really hit hard by the hurricane
Oh,
because I
really?
got out just before the hurricane. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I'm
Wow.
sure by the time we can get back, it'll be back again.
And those
Yeah.
two little girls that you saw standing there, I had to beg them to take their picture.
Oh,
And
wow.
they like had a lot of attitude. One did, and I
They
said,
looked like they had attitude. I was standing there.
America.
but I loved them. They were teens, and so you know what can you say?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, they were cute.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
well,
that's it.
we have about 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Is there anything else you guys want to really dive deep into about the program or about what's going on today and how these characters would react to today's events, or any other, character that you may be thinking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Other characters. Phyllis, you had one.
Yeah, she is. Her name is Zora Thurston Neal.
Zora Neale.
yeah.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
she is powerful. She was one of those. She was one of the most powerful writers coming out of the Harlem Renaissance, and she. I just recently read an essay that she wrote about how she sees herself. Um, um, as a black woman, but she doesn't see herself like that at all. She talks about when she was a child and explains how, she was just Zora when she was a little girl. She was just Zora, and she would wave, the place that she lived in, people would come through, and the people who were Alabamans would just drive through, but the tourists would stop and she'd wave and she'd talk to the tourists and they'd take her picture and all kinds of stuff like that. And um,
I'm sorry, Phyllis. Is it Zora Neale Hurston or
Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
Zora Neale? Okay, yeah,
I think it's Zora Neale Hurston.
Yeah.
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 It is.
yeah.
And she disappeared when she disappeared from the not from the scene at the time, but for a long period of time, her as a writer disappeared. And I don't know if it was Dove or if it was Walker that went and searched her out and found her grave. Her grave was and I think it was still in Alabama when she died. She was buried there. I'm not 100% sure of that. Don't quote me on that. But her grave was hidden. It had to be cut. It was in the weeds and in the woods. It just grown over, and she got lost. I mean, she got lost. She was a woman to contend with. She really was a powerful, powerful human being, and she was a very vibrant woman, and she's just we know a lot of her work, a lot of her stories and stuff, but she's just incredible. I really like her a lot. She's good. So
Yeah,
I'd
I
like
remember
to
that
see.
you really love poetry. Yeah, you gave me a lot of poetry books that I still have.
I did.
Yeah, you did. You did. I still have, yeah, a couple of them. Yeah.
It is Alice Walker. She actually has a dedication to Zora Neale Hurston where she's like, as a people, we can't afford to throw away anybody, even if we must collect them bone by bone.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up putting a marker on her grave because it wasn't unmarked.
Yeah, it was Alice Walker, the founder. Yeah, that whole scream of women, the Alice Walker and those, that whole writing group, just
And, what's his name? The one who has the Spanish sounding name. Yeah, she's still around. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we had to
No, not
study
Maya.
Zora Neale Hurston in my
Oh, yeah.
Spanish
Yeah, Maya. Yeah.
my Harlem Renaissance class in school.
Yeah, that she's
Yeah.
really good writer. In the school that I used to teach at in Kansas, one of her novels is a required reading, which is cool. I was wondering about your the Visionaries piece, and Sheena was explaining the process. She was explaining about the process, the kind of, you wanted to research, you wanted to do these things. And she said that I didn't quite understand what the vision is behind it. What do you want to, what is the vision, or what is the, what do you want? Why are you wanting to tell these stories? What do you want people to find out from them? What do you, are you just wanting to do monologues about these women and men? Or do you want us to find them and see them in a new direction? What is your vision for these pieces? I can definitely see them going longer, more in depth, and being really, really powerful, revealing kind of pieces. So I was wondering what was your intention,
Well, my intention was, the first part was, this was part of their season that we're doing. Season, so it was a part of that, and we were to do it in front of a live audience, but because of COVID, we had to do it online. So this was part of it. And the vision is to know who these people are, to discuss them, to go really deep down and to find out who they are and what they would, what they've given to us, what we can learn from them. Also to help the actor grow. And I do see these pieces in full length, maybe a play, or when COVID is done, we were in the process of traveling to different venues and having these pieces done. We had one actor that also did do her piece at a venue last year, and it was a much longer piece. It was very well received. It was very good. And so we plan on doing that. But your question, yeah, the vision is to know more about them and to discuss them. But another question is, what do you see that we can make it, better, or your vision, what your vision is, what you think it should be? All right.
I think it should go beyond what we know. I think we should see them in a way that they aren't normally shown to us, like elements that we don't know about them. How they see the world that maybe we aren't necessarily shown to. What are the privacy things, we're given a one dimension to some of these people, but these were three-dimensional people. They were three-dimensional, like Huey is. He's this, and he's part of this whole intense group of people who, you know, said, okay, you're going to tell me that I have Second Amendment rights. Well, I'm going to show you that I have Second Amendment rights, and I'm going to carry out those Second Amendment rights, and I'm going to make that happen for me and for my people, because, you know, you say you need protection, I need protection too, and I'm going to carry my Second Amendment rights outright and on my shoulder, and I'm going to know my rights because I'm going to carry it everywhere I go. I'm going to carry a copy of the Constitution of the United States. I'm going to carry it wherever I go, so that if you've got a problem, I'm going to say, this is what it says. You know, these are my. This is what, you know, and he was part of a whole entire movement like that. You know, and just you know, just more. I want more, you know. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you tantalize, you know, you did this to me. You went,
Okay. Okay.
come on. And I'm just like, come on, give me more, you know. And I think that would be fun. You know. Does that make sense? What I just said? Yeah.
Yes. Can I add a little something, Sheila?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about, I don't think anyone selected Martin Luther King. And I think I kind of know why nobody selected him, because when somebody does something on the level that the movement that he created and everything that he did, maybe people stand off from that because because you would want to do him just perfectly. You would want the perfect actor and someone who could really spend a lot of time developing the character and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of others that I was thinking about. B.B. King was a American African musician, blues musician, who was probably one of the most underrated musicians to ever play, and probably underpaid, I would imagine. But yet he made his own way. You know, like one of the photos on the Visionary of Freedom flyer is B.B. King's in Nashville. So that character would be a good one to uncover and, you know, to share. And also another one that they made a great movie about, Jackie Robinson, and all that Jackie Robinson went through, you know, choosing to make a career out of baseball. At the time that he did that, and how it impacted the country and the country's awareness, and you know, the ignorance that he had to sort of ignore, you know, the ignorance out in the stadiums, you know, because of course baseball is real big in the South, but all over the country. I'm sure he experienced, you know, the name calling or whatever, because he was a great player, and he didn't stop being a great player, and he kept going and had a very long baseball career. And there's another one, Hank Aaron, you know, who set the home, you know, who broke Babe Ruth's record, you know, broke Babe Ruth's record, and also he had some great accomplishments during that transitional era, you know, the 70s, 60s, 70s, especially Hank Aaron in the 70s, but I think Jackie Robinson would have been more like the 50s. 50s and 60s.
Well, I was wondering if you guys were going to like drop it to the school system or anything like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And then also, I was interested in people that have made such an impact, like Lorraine Hansberry or something like that we often don't hear about, and is in a, you know, slightly different genre that maybe kids don't hear about, like being a playwright or something like that. And she was also heavily into the civil rights movement, you know, met with Robert F. Kennedy to let him know that he needed to do something about, you know, folks traveling in the South to do the freedom rides and protect them. But, you know, she died so early of breast cancer that it's, other than A Raisin in the Sun, she's kind of forgotten. And then also, if you are gonna look at it, putting it in schools, really as Phyllis was saying, look at some of the things that we don't know about, you know, about people. Like Harriet Tubman, everybody knows she's Moses. Everybody knows she's, you know, freed this many slaves, but they forget she was a Union spy. She was a
Yeah,
nurse.
she was. She was a
You know,
soldier.
she did a lot of things after that that were still like, if somebody told you this person did all this in a lifetime, you call them a liar because you're like, there's no way. But, you know, it's kind of like that's her, what's talked about most, but it's like she did amazing things even after that. So, you know, yeah.
I'll tell you what my interest is. I have a bent toward arcane facts and you know, like my Jane Johnson, forgotten, well, unknown people. And what I would like to do a series on those people, because you have to remember there were 4 million slaves at the Civil War, and we've been there for hundreds of years. And the penalties for running were horrendous, but we ran. 100,000 of us made it, but the majority, of course, didn't. I would like to do a story about the first runaway, you know, and you could probably track it through bill of sales and, you know, the first person that looked around and said, bag this for a game of soldiers, I'm off. Didn't know where they were going to the rest of it. Now, I talked to Lenora about that, and she pointed out that a lot of Native American tribes, that's where you ran to. So I'd like to do that. The other one, George Washington and Martha Washington had an African cook. He was fantastic. There are still recipes that he did. Magnificent cook. They let him keep extra money. He dressed to the nines. He looked really good. And when they got ready to move, and, you know, where they were going back to Mount Vernon, they packed up their stuff and left. But when they got there, he was gone. He disappeared with his money and his fine clothes, and they never saw him again. So that's the kind of people I want to do stuff about. People who got up and went, you know, and you don't hear about them. His recipes are still extant, you know, but they were like, where's George? You know, George is going to cook. Mine is Malcolm X. And that's because the journey he took from hustler to revolutionary to radical. And by that, I mean, he moved from the streets to being a member of the Black Muslims, learning that there are, as he came back, there are Muslims of every hue, white, Black, you know, all shades. And so this idea that the white man is the devil and we are only the people there is false. And I remember when he said that thinking, they gonna kill him, you know? And the reason I say that is my husband, when he was in America, said, how come nobody shot Farrakhan? They shot Martin, they shot, and because as long as we feel that it's only us and we need no allies, I think we are no danger to the man. But once we open it up and say, anybody that's willing to join us on this fight and this journey, I think you become a danger. And I think he knew that. I think he was aware of what he was saying. So I would like to spend time talking to him about that.
Amen. And please ask him about when the raid happened, when he got raided, because we want to know what really happened. Because there are documentaries about that.
Well, Charlie, you do know the odds of my talking to him are pretty low.
Yeah, but we want to know the. We want to know.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying,
all right,
if you do the part, we want to see the questions about what happened and who did what and everything.
Okay, I will definitely check that out.
Right, and for me, y'all, it would be Martin Luther King. I was a little kid when I saw Martin Luther King. For some reason, I was home I don't remember the season or whatever, but he was being interviewed by a famous news anchor, kind of like a 60 Minutes, where he's sitting side by side. And I just remember, you're flipping through channels, and I stopped and I just kind of listened, and it was like he came to life before my very eyes, And then after that, and to hear other people, because I lived in Memphis where Martin Luther King was assassinated, and to hear other people, their fears, about things that were happening in the community, the garbage strike, and all of that.
Next.
Next.
Mine is a little weird. I don't know, these are men coming up.
I beg your pardon?
I said most of the people mentioned are men so far. But mine would be Donnell Lee. Today his name is Hakeem Adabudi. And he is alive. And
Yeah, I'll say I have kind of two. James Baldwin is one that I'm really interested in finding out what he's like. And, you see the videos, you see him speak. I'd also like to know, who was he, really. I'd ask him, what was his life like? How did he grow up? How did he end up over in Europe and speaking? How did he get those speaking engagements? And then him traveling back here and his impact, you do the research and you see things on him. Very interesting person. My other person is Octavia Butler. She's a science fiction writer. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Science fiction writer. I had autographed books from her.
Oh, really? So you met her?
Yeah, I'm a science fiction geek.
You're right.
Oh, wow.
I met her too. And so I'd like to know. Like to sit down and talk with her and talk about her life and how she comes up with just like mind-boggling. Her science fiction piece is like, where are you getting these ideas
I'd like
from?
to find out more about her, about
read
her.
Her thing about Xenovia and the idea that cancer cells can be traded throughout the galaxy because they were used. And she got that off the Henrietta Leaks thing, So, there's another really good African-American young woman. Her name is N.K. Jennison. And she writes, she's won everything.
Really?
And so, yeah.
And this is another person, but this is totally cheating. And that would be Gwendolyn Brooks. So.
That's cheating.
I know it's cheating.
I met her one time.
You met her one time?
Yeah, I did. I had a student who had did a poem, and I thought it was really, really good. And so I entered him in the Gwendolyn Brooks contest, and he was chosen to read at the. He was one of the winners, and he was chosen to read, and she was there, and so I got to just got to meet her really quickly. And she was a short lady, just slightly taller than me. She was
short, Phyllis.
I know.
And I do want to add, she paid out of her pocket for when the kids won. She did not have a grant or anything. She paid for that.
Wow.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah.
Great woman.
Well, mine is Betsy Coleman and Mae Jemison. Anything to do with space, astronauts, flying. I always wanted to learn how to fly a plane, so I would love to sit and talk to them, especially about space and universe. So those two in a room together, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Oh wow! Just thinking about it, yeah. I could probably try to get to talk to May right now because she's living. I could find,
Yep, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, give it a shot.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's my two.
Okay.
Okay. Phyllis.
Okay, I'm gonna. This is sound a little weird, but I would like to really sit in a room with Yoko Ono and talk to her about performance. Talked about her writing,
Wow.
Yes.
and I would just in photography and film and all the great things that she did. She's just an amazing. She didn't hold back on anything. And she's one of the incredible couples of the 20th century.
Wow, Charlie was researching those two for his.
Yep.
I've got a couple of books. I've got one of their like tie up a cloud and release it, and just to do really things like that, really strange things like that. It's really really fun. And then so I'd like to really talk to her. I think it'd be so fun to sit for an hour or two to talk to her. Gosh. I'd like to talk with her
right now.
Yeah, I would like to. He was just irreverent about a lot of things, so he's pretty pretty interesting character.
Right, like the song Blackbird.
Yeah.
There's a little story behind that, the origins are because of they were asked to perform for a segregated audience in Jacksonville, Florida. And they refused to do it. And from then on, they had it written into the contracts. I think it was mainly Paul and John, but the whole group, they didn't want to have any part of segregation.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the song Blackbird, the idea of it perhaps came from. It was inspired, of course it's inspired by the natural blackbird, but inspired by that hope for change in that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've learned a lot about John and Yoko through you, Charlie, what you've been, showing me. So I appreciate that. I need to, all these characters, all these people in history. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out on what day is this? Thursday night? Talk about it, people in history. And I just want to thank all of you guys. The work that you did is just so incredible. And we want to take it, even farther. And as Phyllis said, really go deep down into these characters and really bring them, to life even more. And just continue on our journey, not only on this project, but other projects in the future. And I just want to thank our director, who's our first time directing. I know that it's like an online thing, but all the things that came together, we got it together. So I want to thank Shayna. Just want to see if you want to say anything else about your experience.
Thank you, Sheena.
The thing I do want to say is it would not have gone off if it weren't for the really strong backing that I had with Sheila. Helped so much. She put herself up as a co-director, but actually I felt like she was the director. Came up with so many great ideas. Then there was Clemente, who just blew things out the water.
Yes.
Oh my God. He was just awesome. And then Charlie with the flyer. Oh my God. Marvin, Paulette, Cindy. Every time we would run your piece, Moms, Clemente would start cracking up every time. I mean, it was I was just waiting for him to start laughing, but he did a really great job on that. Everybody was awesome. And thank you all for being a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. All right, we'll look for some more stuff from us. We're going to keep working.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Taking
Thanks,
time.
everybody.
you.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
asking me to come. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Have a good weekend.
Pleasure.
Bye.
You
And
too.
you
Always a
too.
pleasure.
Be careful out there.
You
Bye-bye.
Great,
Thank
great,
you.
Bye.
great to see the new faces too.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Good night.